Guts is one of the most popular anime and manga figures, coming from the manga Berserk, which is both rated #1 and the most popular manga on all of my anime list, which is a Western site to keep track of which anime and manga you've read. And if you've been on the internet long enough, you might have seen many Christians fawning over this story. In this video, I'll explain why Christians love Guts and why atheists get angry at Christians for loving Guts. Keep in mind while doing so, I will need to spoil pretty much every major plot arc throughout the story, so if you're planning on reading Berserk or watching the 1997 anime, probably don't watch this. Instead, hit the save button below the video and add it to your watch later list. Diving in, the reason why Christians like Guts is because he is literally fighting demons throughout a majority of the story. However, there's a lot of shows and manga where the main characters are fighting demons, practically all the time. Berserk, however, catches the despair and ability to overcome properly, unlike practically every other show, which is some sick and twisted power fantasy of, I'm so strong, I can kill demons. Guts is so strong, he can kill demons, that's correct. In order to become so, though, he trained with intense fervor and had immense quote-unquote luck, protecting him from his enemies he could never have hoped to defeat. For instance, when he first runs into the Apostle Zod, the demons in Berserk are referred to as apostles, by the way, he gets beaten within an inch of death and is about to be executed. And then Griffith, his friend at the time, saves him. Not because Griffith was so strong. By any measure at this point, Guts was much stronger, and Griffith also was practically beaten to death. But because Griffith had the devil's own luck and had the king's egg Bailet, Zod allows them to live and flees quickly. Guts, going into this fight, could easily tell he wasn't going to win, but still tries, still damages the enemy, and comes out the other side alive. He overcame, and he repeats this story time and time again. Also note, Guts trains unlike any other. He puts in maximum effort both in combat and out of combat training. And yet still, despite being stronger than any other warrior on the planet, he still loses to these monsters. It's a good mix between strength and honing your God-given abilities to the best you are able, and battles you can't overcome on your own strength, in which you need the strength of God to aid you. Similar stories are seen throughout the Bible, such as in the story of David and Goliath. David, just a youth at the time, throws a rock through a sling at a 15-foot tall giant wearing 100 pounds of armor and kills him instantaneously. By any measure, David should not have won such a fight, but because God was with him, he destroyed his enemy and overcame. Next up, let's go back to Griffith. Griffith is a reflection of the Antichrist in the Bible. During the eclipse, Griffith's broken body is taken and transformed into a new body, at the sacrifice of all of his remaining friends' lives in eternal damnation. After the eclipse is broken, Griffith is in what we'll refer to as the spirit realm and no longer present on this planet, but he is still there and has gained an immortal body through such great sin that it fills you with visceral disgust. He later gains a physical incarnation, and in his physical incarnation, he looks exactly the same as before, but now has immense supernatural powers, and an army of quote-unquote apostles fighting for him disguised as humans. This makes for a strong reflection with the Antichrist, as in the Bible, the Antichrist makes a deal with the devil. He has a mortal wound, but it is healed. Basically, his head gets chopped off and it's healed. And he has immense supernatural powers protecting him from harm until Jesus comes back to bring justice upon him. This comes from Revelation 13:3-4. One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed, and the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like the beast, and who can fight against it? The same sentiment of who can fight against the beast, we also see paralleled in the story of Berserk. All other kingdoms have fallen, and his kingdom is the last one remaining. Once again, this has a ton of parallels with the story given in Revelation. As well as this, the apocalypse described in Revelation matches extremely well with the world of Berserk. The world was messed up before the Antichrist was around, but afterwards, everything is wrong. everything is broken, and yet everyone loves him. All the way through this, Guts fights a bitter fight to stop Griffith. He makes some progress and accomplishes some good, but in the end, it's all for naught. And his strength can't match the strength of this Antichrist-like being on the physical plane. There's just not much he can do to him. Throughout all this, Guts is fighting bitterly and losing, although still alive with everything going against him. There's also the aspect of free will. Guts is not a follower of God, even going as far as saying, if you see God, you tell him this: leave me the hell alone. This is interesting as it indicates a belief towards God's existence, but not wanting anything to do with him. A lot of atheists really like this sentiment because they seem to think, if God is real, why is the world bad? These people are incredibly difficult to talk to and usually don't want to hear the slightest smidgen about free will, allowing us to make things worse or better. For instance, in Berserk, Griffith could have chosen not to take the immortal body and not sacrifice all his friends to literal demons and damn them to hell. A lot of Christians resonate extremely well with this sentiment too, though, from before they were Christian. It says in Proverbs 3:12, "For the Lord reproves him whom he loves, as a father the son in whom he delights." This is talking about a father whooping a child who is out of line until they get back into line. Lines up pretty well with the story in Berserk. God's just whooping Guts until he gets back into line. And the reason why a lot of Christians resonate so well with this is they've felt the same way as the atheists at one point. God, if you're real, why is everything awful? The answer is that this life isn't all there is. If you were seeing this life you have on earth as everything, and after that there is nothing, then the concept of God allowing things to be awful is foreign. But if you see life as a test for something greater to come, then it starts to become clear. You may also see God as disrespectful of life, but with an afterlife to come, it's just an advancement to the next stage sooner. Now, let's talk about Berserk's concept of hell real quick, because I have some major problems. The concept that you can be damned and there's nothing you can do about it because someone else committed an immense sin. In this case, literal human sacrifice for power. That's just blatantly false. God is a just ruler, and the concept of you did everything right, but Jimmy over here did something wrong, so I'm going to punish the whole class is not present in Christianity. This comes with the territory with any manga or anime though. It's common in Japanese culture to see Western religion just as something cool rather than something to actually believe. And so we'll see shows with hugely Christian elements like Berserk or like Neon Genesis Evangelion come out as Japanese with a bit of Christianity sauce sprinkled on top. And by the way, this is not me saying that's necessarily the case with Miura. He could have just been building a world using cool aspects of Christianity, and he wanted that world to be devoid of justice. That way it's a little bit more chaotic, a little bit more devoid of hope. And that's certainly a way to make a world devoid of justice quickly. And if that was his goal, he achieved it. Anyways though, I hope that helps you understand if you're a Christian or not, why so many Christians like Berserk. If you have any questions or comments for me, write them below. And until next time, I'm Elijah.